My dear children of class 8, good morning. Today we are going to study the third lesson in history, that is ruling the countryside. In this chapter, we will see how the English East India Company came to colonize the countryside, that is our Indian villages, our rural areas, organize revenue resources, redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. Okay. Our first topic is the company become the Diwan. Textbook, page number 27. Children, look at this picture. Robert Clive accepting the Diwani rights, Diwani of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha from the Mughal rulers in 1765. On 12th August 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal. Okay. Dear children, what does Diwani mean? Who gave Diwani rights to British? Yes, Emperor Shah Alam. In 1765, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam granted the Diwani of Bengal, that is, the right to collect the land revenue to the East India Company. From then on, the Diwani became the main source of British revenue from India. This was granted after the Battle of Buxar, 1764. This was signed by Shah Alam II and Robert Clive. The actual event probably took place in Robert Clive's tent with a few Englishmen and Indians as witness. But in the painting above, the event is shown as a majestic occasion taking place in a grand setting. The painter was commissioned by Clive to record the memorable event in Clive's life. The grant of Diwani clearly was one such event in British imagination. Okay. So, as a Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. The company achieved the rights of Diwani, the responsibility of administering the land and organizing its revenue also came on the shoulders of the East India Company. Not only this, it had to ensure that it could buy the products it needed at cheaper rates and sell them at higher rates. Okay, can you understand, children? Repeating again, on 12th August 1765, the Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II granted the Diwani rights to Bengal to East India Company. This was granted after Battle of Buxar, that is in 1764. This was signed by Shah Alam II and Robert Clive. Now the company became the chief financial administrator of Bengal. When the company achieved the right of Diwani, the responsibility of administering the land and organizing its revenue also came on the shoulders of the company. Not only this, it had to ensure that it could buy the products it needed at cheaper rates and sell them at higher rates. Okay. Over the years, the East India Company had also learned how to play safe in an unknown land, that is our India. Now, what I mean is that the company had to pacify those rulers who are the early rulers of the countryside. It was not possible to eliminate them completely. So the company did some experiment. Okay. The company had become the Diwan. It still saw itself as primarily as a trader, not as a ruler or administrator. It wanted a large revenue income but was unwilling to set up any regular system of assessment and collection. The effort was to increase the revenue as much as it could and buy fine cotton and silk cloth as cheaply as possible. Within 5 years, the value of goods bought by the company in Bengal doubled. Before 1865, the company had purchased goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain. Now, the revenue collected in Bengal could finance the purchase of goods for export. Okay. Soon it was clear that the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. The economy, the artisans left Bengal as they were being forced by the English East India Company to sell their products at cheaper rate. Artisans were skilled worker or craftsmen. Okay. For example, the baker of specialty breads is an example of an artisan. Peasants, that is cultivators, were unable to pay the heavy taxes or dues laid on them. Agriculture was collapsing. A big famine of 1770 hit Bengal. This killed about 10 million populations there, washing out about 1/3 of the population of Bengal. As such incidents took place, which ruined the economy heavily, the English East India Company then felt the need of improving the agriculture. Okay. So, our next topic is land revenue policy. In 1765, the company became the Diwan or revenue collector of certain areas in India. After this, the company's corrupt servants started to extract large amounts of land revenue from the peasants. That means the natives, the cultivators. They fill their pocket with most of the money, leaving very little for the company. Also, their methods of collection caused widespread misery and sorrow among the peasants and a decline in agricultural production. To ensure a regular flow of revenue, the East India Company felt the need to restore agriculture. The company also decided to settle or fix the amount of revenue to be collected and who had to pay it. The company tried out many experiments for this purpose. One is permanent settlement. In this lesson, we are going to discuss their 3 experiments. Okay, 3 main experiments. One is permanent settlement, another one is Ryotwari settlement, another one is Mahalwari settlement. In permanent settlement in 1793, the permanent settlement in Bengal was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. Lord Cornwallis codified laws, founded the ICS and introduced the permanent settlement. Okay. ICS, you know very well, it's the Indian Civil Service. ICS was officially known as the Imperial Civil Service. It was the elite higher civil service of the British Empire in British India during British rule in the period between 1858 and 1947. Okay. Permanent settlement, it was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. Later, he extended it to Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Northern Madras and Banaras. Banaras means Varanasi. Today we are calling it as Kasi. The land revenue was permanently fixed at the highest possible rate that the land could yield. Okay, the traditional zamindars were supposed to be collected this revenue. Of the revenue collected, 89% would go to the state and 11% to the zamindars, as the state share was fixed permanently. Lord Cornwallis expected the zamindars to bring improvement in agricultural conditions to increase their own income. Most of the company officials were of the view that there was a great need of investing in land and agriculture in order to improve it, because the fall in agriculture was resulting into great loss of revenue to the company, East India Company. Therefore, after a long thinking, in 1793, the company took the decision of introducing the revenue collection method is known as permanent settlement. As per the permanent settlement, the Rajas and the Talukdars were now known as Zamindars, like a new term. The Rajas and Talukdars were now known as the Zamindars, and they had to collect the rent from the cultivators, which was fixed permanently by the Britishers. Dear children, tell me now, who were Zamindars? What were their duties? Yes, Zamindars means who have much lands. The main responsibility of the Zamindar in the Mughal administration was to collect taxes from peasants and submit the same to the central government, revenue department. Okay. The main aim behind this was that Zamindars will only pay the fixed amount to Britishers, since the demand of revenue will not increase, and will invest into improvement of agriculture to generate extra income for themselves. It did not go as per the plan, and the following problems arose. Okay. What are the problems? First one is the permanent settlement did not prove to be that useful as thought by the company. Soon it was discovered that Zamindars were not investing the improvement of land, because the rent fixed was so high that it became impossible for the Zamindars to pay it off. As a result, they were deprived of Zamindaris. They eliminated that. Even the Zamindaris were also put on auction by the company. Meanwhile, something new was noticed by the company, that the situation was changing as the prices of the goods were increasing, and slowly but gradually the agriculture was also expanding. This led to benefit of Zamindars, but for the company, East India Company, it remained the same as the revenue was fixed. Even the Zamindars were not keen to invest in investment of agriculture, because they were gaining a lot without putting any efforts in the form of the rent that they obtained from the peasants. On the other hand, the cultivators found it extremely oppressive, as they had to pay very high rent to Zamindars, though they did not have ownership over the land that they worked on. Okay. Now that we know the problems being faced by the company regarding generation of revenue, we should now move on to the solution it came up with. Okay. The new system is devised. In the early 19th century, many other company officials felt it was impossible for the company to survive on the fixed amount of rent that it was getting, because now the expenses of the company had increased. They decided to develop a new method of revenue collection. First one is Rohitwari settlement. British officials Alexander Reed, Alexander, Alexander, Read, Reed, and Thomas Munro, Thomas, Thomas, Munro, Munro, developed a system, Rohitwari, where the revenue was directly collected from the ryots, ryots, or cultivators, who were actual cultivators and had been tilling the land for generations. During the Anglo-Mysore Wars, that Alexander Reed experimented with this system in some areas of South India. Thomas Munro introduced the Rohitwari settlement in Mysore and the Carnatic area. and later it extended to Bombay and parts of Madras as well. Okay. In 1820s, the British officials named Halt Mackenzie conducted a detailed land surveys in a part of the Bengal province called the Northwestern Provinces. The area included were Western Uttar Pradesh, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Ganga Yamuna Doab. In 1830s, based on Mackenzie's suggestion, these regions were placed under the Mahalwari settlement. This settlement was made in order to protect the ownership rights of the peasants over their land. Check the operation of the traditional revenue collectors and ensure agricultural improvement. The land revenue under the system was settled with the head of the Mahal. Mahal means the village or group of villages that paid land revenue as a single unit. So, Lord Halt Mackenzie developed a new method of revenue collection known as Mahalwari system. In this system, the following steps were taken. Officers went to different villages for inspection of lands. Fields were measured. Customs and rights of the people were recorded. Estimated revenue of each plot within the village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village means Mahal, M-A-H-A-L, Mahal had to pay. The revenue was not permanently fixed. It was to be revised periodically. Instead of zamindars, the village headman was made responsible of collecting and paying the revenue to the company. While the Mahalwari system of revenue collection was introduced in the northern part of the country, another method came into use in the southern part of India. This was known as Ryotwari system or Monroe system. Okay. In the Monroe system, the southern part of India, also Britishers felt that permanent settlement method was not beneficial enough. Thomas Monroe, governor of Madras 1819 to 26, developed a new method of revenue collection known as Ryotwari system. This system was actually based on a method which was applied by Captain Alexander Reed on a small scale in some of the areas which were won over the company after defeating Tipu Sultan. Ryots here refers to the cultivators. Okay, R-Y-O-T-S means it's a cultivator or peasants. As there was absence of zamindars in South India, both Reed and Monroe decided to directly deal with the ryots or the cultivators who were tilling the land from generations. Under this, the field of ryots were carefully measured and assessed. Okay, dear children, now we know the three system of revenue collections were tried by the Britishers. Let us compare them. Okay. The first one is permanent settlement, introduced in point number 1, introduced in the year 1793. Second point, revenue was fixed. Point number 3, zamindars were ordered to collect the revenue. It's introduced in Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Zamindars were the owner of the land. Okay. Next one is Ryotwari system, introduced in the year 1820. Revenue was not fixed. Each field was carefully measured and assessed. Britishers collected the revenue. It introduced in Madras, Bombay, Coorg in Karnataka, etc. Peasants, that's cultivators, local cultivators were the owners. Okay. The next one is Mahalwari system, introduced in the year 1833. Next point was revenue was not fixed. Estimated revenue of each plot was added to the total revenue of the village. Instead of zamindars, the revenue was collected by the village headman. Introduced in northwestern frontier, that is northwestern frontier, Punjab, Gangetic Valley, etc. Peasants were the owner of the land. That is the cultivators. They are the owners of the land. Okay. Okay, children. Now we know the difference between all the three systems of revenue collection. We know that the Ryotwari system was also introduced by the Britishers. But soon a new problem was arised. What was it? Let us find out. Under the Ryotwari system, peasants were charged with a very high rate of tax. They started deserting the countryside as it became impossible for them to pay tax. Many of the company officers were of the view that the new system of collection will help peasants in becoming rich, but this never happened. Britishers were solely dependent on the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes. They levied, but they also decided to use the crops of the country in order to earn profit in the trading business. Okay. Now, dear children, now let us review the chapter at a glance. Okay. On 12th August 1765, the Mughal Emperor appointed the company as Diwan of Bengal. The English East India Company used the revenue it got from Bengal for trading purposes. It forced the artisans to sell their goods at cheaper prices to them. The peasants were unable to pay their dues and the artisans began deserting the villages. In 1770, a terrible famine wiped out 1/3 of Bengal's population. Okay. The next point is, as agriculture also showed signs of collapse, the company introduced the permanent settlement in 1793, where the Rajas and Talukdars were made Zamindars and to had collect rent from the peasants to pay the revenue. The revenue to be paid was kept fixed, which could ensure revenue generation and also keep the zamindars happy, as they could then invest the extra earnings into improving the land. Next point is, the zamindars did not invest the earning as they struggled to pay their dues. As the market rose, the cultivation expanded and the earnings of the zamindars rose, but the revenue earned by the company remained fixed. Also, the zamindars were not interested in investing the money, as they wanted to earn money by giving out land to the tenants. Next point, the cultivators suffered the most, as they had to pay very high rents of the zamindars and often had to take loans to pay it off. In 1822, Halt Mackenzie introduced the Mahalwari system, where collectors went and inspected the plot of land and fixed the revenue. This revenue was revised each year. Okay, the next point. In the south, the Ryotwari system was initiated by Captain Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro, where the settlement was made directly with the Ryots after their lands had been assessed and the revenue determined. But because of their desire to increase their revenue, they demanded higher revenues from the Ryots, who in turn fled the countryside as they were unable to pay their taxes or dues. Okay. In our next class, we will discuss about the company East India Company, how it interested in growing crops needed in Europe, okay, such as indigo and opium. Okay. So all the three new systems designed and introduced by the British proved to be failures. Okay, the company, East India Company, had imposed these systems to increase their income from the lands and farmers of India. But the revenues they demanded were so high that farmers went in deep sorrows and died of hunger as their fertile lands became barren and fell into disuse. Okay, this is the problem of the three systems. Can you understand, children? Okay. Now, please take your history book, read textbook pages 26 to 30 for homework. The lesson is over for today. Have a good day. See you next week, children. Stay home, stay safe, and stay blessed. Thank you.